today's interview with Larry, remember, a simple fact underlies all your marketing. The more people who know what you do for a living, the more leads you'll get, right? A free, easy, effective way to spread the word is to tell people you encounter, no matter where you encounter them, about your work. Lawyers can be a bit shy about discussing their work, but this is a mistake, right? I mean, people find the law interesting, and two, you'll get more clients this way. Of course, with in-person social gatherings and social settings, you usually only have an audience of a few, but the numbers can accumulate over time. With social media, you can dramatically accelerate the process. Okay, let's get started with Larry. Hi there, welcome back to the Grow with Cara show. Today we continue our interview series with successful attorney marketers. We're taking a close look at what's working, what's not, the specific steps these attorneys took to get to where they are. And these are simple steps that you too can follow to get on a similar path to growth. Okay, let's get right to it. Today our special guest is attorney Larry Nussbaum. Larry is the partner of the Altman Nussbaum Schenerer Law Group, a rapidly growing personal injury firm in Boston. They've collected more than $1 billion for their clients. We're excited to have him here today. Welcome, Larry. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
You're like Larry, a natural.
Yeah.
That was good.
Thanks. I've done a couple of these. So Larry, to begin, tell us a little bit about your story. Why did you launch the firm?
So I had worked out of law school for a smaller law firm. And about 3 years in, I think it was 3 years into my legal career, I had accumulated enough of my own cases. And so at that point, it just made no sense to work for anybody. But I will tell you this, I've been practicing for, I think, about 11, 12 years now. And so 10 plus years ago, the value in a lawyer like myself being hired to a firm, or me hiring a lawyer, someone that would be considered like a rainmaker. That's where I excelled in the beginning. I was a rainmaker. I could bring in cases like nobody could. That was super important back then. I joke with people now in 2022, it's now 2023. I don't need a rainmaker. We advertise, we get a lot of, I get enough cases. I need lawyers to work them. So I think if I came up now, it would be way different for me.
Yeah. How were you getting those early cases? What were you doing?
I call it the street game. I was just, especially initially, I was just out and about. I never was home, and I was always talking. I like to talk. So we didn't even have, Ubers weren't big back then. So my first cases that I handled would be like speeding tickets for cab drivers. I got a couple cab drivers, and they'd send me all their friends. And I was in the car accident business, but a young lawyer, I was taking anything I could get. And then the cab drivers would get in an accident, and they were all loyal. Like once you had a couple cab drivers, you had them all. It seemed like that. And then they were all gone. But things like that, I would go out to restaurants, bars, clubs. I was always out, and I was always, I didn't consider it marketing, but it was. I was always just trying to be the popular guy in the room, and if people liked me, I could then tell them what I did once I already had their trust, and then if they ever needed a case, or they ever needed a lawyer, I'd be their lawyer.
Yeah, you were pounding the pavement a little bit, it sounds like.
And the interesting part about that is, people probably don't appreciate me giving this advice, but I am the epitome of, like, I couldn't afford these nice dinners I was going to. I couldn't afford the nice cars I was driving. I couldn't afford the suits. But I truthfully believe that it's pathetic, but I don't write the rules of our society. Like, being at the nice places, dressing nicely, driving the nice car, that certainly helped me move up the chain quicker. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Fake it till you make
it. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now, how are you positioning the firm now? What type of PI cases are you guys primarily handling?
So we handle everything. I would say probably 85% of our cases are some form of car accident. And we're a volume firm. I've always believed in, listen, there's a lot of different models out there that I've seen work, and there's a lot I've seen haven't worked. But I know a lot of successful lawyers, way more successful than myself, and not one of them runs their firm the exact same way.
Sure.
So I've always tried to find my own way. I think that's important. Like I like having mentors and I take advice, but when I realize that none of them are doing it the exact same way, what I realize is the ones that are really successful, they're doing it their way.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do it my way, and I take a little bit of a lot of different people and I kind of mesh it into my magical little sauce, so to speak. But it's interesting, as the firm's grown, we dominated the volume market. We get a lot of volume, and I'm a believer. In order to get the good cases, you got to have a lot of volume, because for every X amount of cases you get, there's going to be some good ones, some decent ones, some bad ones. But certainly with the internet nowadays and some of the other forms of marketing, you can certainly target, catastrophic type cases. And so that's kind of my new goal of where I'm at now, is that we've mastered getting the volume, and we get some catastrophic cases within those. But I'm actually, I don't recommend doing this day one, but I'm actually now asking my audience for catastrophic cases. I'm not asking for a car accident.
Yeah, smart. Learn what's working for others and make it your own. Yeah, good advice. How big is the team? How many attorneys versus support staff?
So we have about, and we're still hiring. It's been an interesting last 6 months. I think across, again, I call all the people to make sure it's not just myself. It's an interesting market. I think it's getting better. So we're still probably understaffed, but we have 20 lawyers, maybe 21, and about 40 support staff.
Yeah.
So about 60 total people. I don't need any more lawyers, although I'll never turn down an A player. So I've had that happen before, where I'm able to attract an A player, or they want to come join our team, and I can't say no to adding A players. Unfortunately, sometimes that means just adding, or it could mean having to make the hard decision to remove someone who's just not quite up to par. But we're not short staffed in lawyers, but we definitely need some more support staff. I don't think we have enough for the 20 lawyers.
What has the revenue growth been like over the years? Give us an idea of the trajectory.
Well, I'm blessed to say that it doesn't always work this way, but every year I've been open, we've made more money. When you first start, you have to get through the cycle. I think, a lot of people think a cycle is like 6 months. So you could say the average case settles in 6 months or whatever it used to be. I think it's more like a year and a half to get through a cycle. So even like when I hire a new lawyer, and we work under like a pod system, when I hire a brand new lawyer, man, it's going to be hard for at least 12 months, 18 months for them to really be in a cycle. It gears up after a few months, but you got to put in some work, and the better cases take longer and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sure.
I forget what the actual question was.
Yeah, just the growth. Yeah. I'm more interested in
we've grown.
Yeah, what's fueling the growth? Let's get into some specifics on how you're marketing the firm.
So it's crazy because I don't sleep at night. I worry about every single little aspect of my firm, and my one saving grace when I have like an executive meeting with my team is, we focus all this time on all these systems and different programs in the office and things nowadays, there's all this technology that can help you run a firm. And so all these things I get stuck on and I get neurotic about them. At the end of the day, there's only a couple things that you really have to do to be successful, right? So you have to get the case. I think that's the hardest part, right? There's so many lawyers. We're all fighting for the same cases. Now, I'm of the belief there are enough cases out there for every lawyer. I know a lot of lawyers, and I know a lot of them that are doing very well and making a lot of money. So I'm not competing. I don't look at it like I'm competing with people to get cases. It's, we just have to get enough people to trust our firm, right? So you can always get enough cases, but that's the most important thing. I don't care what anybody says. The most important thing, and it's what I focus the majority of my time on, is generating new cases. And then there's the second aspect of this business is what do you do with the cases that you get? So I'm also of the belief, I don't know, I would say maybe 70% of law firms are probably screwing their client, not necessarily intentionally, but they're just, if I tell a client, hey, your case settled for 10 grand, well, maybe that's good. Your case settled for 2 million. Sounds much better, right? Well, if the case is worth 20 million, 2 million's not good. And nobody really knows what their case is worth. Right. So, there's a lot of short money out there where people are just making some quick money. So what do you do with the case? So I'm a big, we try to not just bring in the most cases, but we want to maximize them. And I'm never happy with either of those numbers, but it's a daily battle. But the most important thing to me by far is always, I don't even worry about the revenue and the numbers at the end. I'm a believer, if you keep bringing in cases, those are assets. The money's somewhere. You got to figure out how to turn it into money, but cases are king for sure.
Yeah. So how are you bringing in those cases? Where are they coming from?
Yeah. So we have so many different, nowadays, again, you can buy a case, right? You can literally hire a lead service and you can buy a case. So if you have the money or you have the budget, you can just buy cases. We do a combination of everything. And I kind of break it into like 3 different categories. So there's basically like lead gen. There's some really good lead generation services out there. They're pooling a bunch of people's money. So you take some of your budget and you just buy some cases. It's quick. It's a guaranteed case. So if I was just starting out and I only had $10,000, I would probably say, listen, don't spend your $10,000 on TV. It's not going to get you enough coverage. Buy as many cases as you can buy for $10,000. At least you're getting a case and there's going to be some money to make on it. So lead gen is one category where we're buying the cases. The problem with the lead generation is that they're not using your brand, right? So when they get the case, they're advertising their company, whatever the company is, and they're a lead gen. So we're once you acquire the case, you're out. Right. So that's one area we put some money in. The other 2 areas are then branding, and then branding, and what I mean by branding is television is branding to me, not marketing. Okay. We have 100 wrapped Ubers. That's branding, not marketing. We're on the radio. That's branding. Most of what's traditional, the billboards, the television, the radio. Now, again, like I said, we have Ubers, which are basically wrapped billboards. That's branding. And what I mean by branding, and you do have to put some money into that. What I mean by branding is, you're not going to see those results maybe for 5 years. Okay. Morgan does it better than anybody. Okay. Morgan comes into a state. He came into Boston. I'm happen to be friends with him, so I don't care that he's here, but Morgan came into Boston. He outspent everybody by at least 5 times, literally. And so everywhere you go in Boston, the buses, the TV, the radio, the billboards, internet, it doesn't matter where you are. I know a lot of people, poor, old, young, rich, doesn't matter. Everybody's heard of Morgan & Morgan. Now, it doesn't mean they hire them, but everybody's heard of Morgan & Morgan. So that's unbelievable branding. But you got to have money for that, because you have to realize for every $5,000 you spend, you're not necessarily getting your $5,000 back. Eventually you will. And then, what I just call kind of the traditional marketing is then you take your own brand. And like I said, I can go on Google and we run Google ads and we run Facebook ads and all different stuff like that. YouTube ads. In fact, I actually just found out the other day that YouTube has more members than Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of them combined. They don't even come close to YouTube. So now we're starting to do a lot with YouTube Shorts.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube Shorts, because there's just such an audience. So then there's our own marketing, which is where we're basically doing our own. I consider it more of like our own lead gen, meaning the money we're spending, we're advertising our name, but we're also acquiring a case. So if somebody clicks on my ad, they're clicking on our Altman, Nussbaum, Shinar ad, but I'm also anticipating that I'm actually going to sign a case then. Whereas on TV, somebody hopefully in 5 years, or doesn't hopefully, but somebody will get in an accident 5 years from now. And we want to be, Morgan's done it well, where it's just like, oh, you got in an accident, you're calling these guys, kind of thing.
Yep.
So that's how we spread out our marketing budget and spend. We also do a lot of what I grew up on. So I just have, there's an easier way to get cases. It's hard to compete with the big guys that are spending all this money. They're eating up all the cases, but there's still, go to your local pizza shop. Instead of just buying the pizza, be super friendly to them. Give them I did a whole speech once on over tipping. Like over tip a little bit, and you don't have to give away the bank, but over tip a little bit at a pizza restaurant, and then kind of without being too cheesy, slip in there that you're an injury lawyer. Guess what? They'll probably call you. And it'll be the best $20 tip you ever spent. Yeah. So we bring in a lot of cases that I call it street game. It's just getting out there and being a good person and knowing people, and then you do have to tell people what you do. A lot of people are great at meeting people and going to the bars, but then they get scared or they feel uncomfortable saying, "Hey, by the way, this is what I do."
Right. Right.
And then I've always struggled with this, but and I still don't like doing it, and I probably don't do it as much as I should. But like, there's nothing wrong with asking either. Like, I see a woman in line and she's in a cast. Could be $1 million case, and I'm afraid to ask her, "Hey, man, I'm just curious what happened to you. Might be able to help you out." And so don't be afraid to ask for a case.
I like that. Larry, about what percentage of your overall revenue would you say you're spending on marketing and advertising? I mean, just an estimate.
Yeah, I think it's not kind of quite how we do it. So I'm just thinking revenue. I mean, we're probably at like 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
Is what we're spending on it. But again, if I was to like give advice, the advice would be, I think they recommend, if you were to like go to like a class that's nothing to do with law, like any business, I think they recommend you being closer to 20%. But I can tell you in this legal industry, there are people borrowing millions of dollars and using that to market. Right, so don't, again, if I was to give someone advice, you gotta have some balls. I don't know if I can say that. You gotta go push the cards in sometimes. So it's not unusual nowadays. Even the guys that are rich that can afford it, they're not spending their own money. So, I'll give you my quick scenario. If the average case cost with a lead service is $2,000 and you can make $10,000 off it, wouldn't you borrow $1 million to buy X amount of cases? 1 million divided by 2,000 is X amount of cases. Times that by 10,000, which is your average fee, and I guarantee you that second number is a lot more than the first number. So, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go all in. I mean, you have to at some point. It's scary as shit. It is. Yeah. I don't sleep well. So, like, if somebody wants sleep advice, I can't give it to them.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for that myself. I do not sleep well. I'll be honest. It's a 24/7 thing.
Yeah. Always on. So Google ads, social ads, what are you typically promoting through those ads? Are you promoting a free consultation? What are you talking about on those ads that seem to be bringing in those quality cases that you're looking for?
So at least in my experience, Google versus social media ads are so different from each other. They really are. So a Google ad is much more direct, like 24/7 free consultation. Don't pay us unless we win. Hurt now. I mean, there's just a quick thing, and somebody's got to click on it, and then it brings you to a nice landing page. Social media, there's so many different ways to do it. I'm a big believer on the social media. It's a whole different demographic. I try to not be generic, like, hey, if you've been hurt, call me now. We sprinkle those in.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know you've seen like my Instagram, and we don't do a good job. We're going to be doing a good job in 23. We've got some new people working on it, and we'll be launching that soon. We're a little bit behind. I wanted to be ready for January 1. But social media, I like to try to earn a client's trust on social media. So you got to hope that your team is targeting the right people. But assuming I'm targeting the right people, I want this person to click on me because they're like, huh, I trust that guy. I like that guy. I want him to be my lawyer.
Right.
Rather than, like, again, Google, you just got to kind of keep it pretty generic.
Right. They're searching for, they need an attorney. They're searching for
Correct.
an attorney. Right. Right. Very different. Let's talk a little bit about social media, though. Even though you say you're going to really ramp up this year, you are very active. You have your @Larry_Nussbaum on Instagram. You have, a loyal following on social. What is social media a lead driver for the firm at this point?
At this point, no. So we don't get it. We don't get nearly as many cases as I'd like off of social media. But I can say, like, if somebody said, like, what's my number one goal, or maybe not number one, but a top 5 goal of mine for the firm, it would be to generate more cases off of social media. And the evidence is out there. A, it works, and B, it's the average cost of acquisition turns out to be much cheaper than what you pay for traditional on, like, TV and radio and all that. And I'm not saying not to do that, but it's tried and tested by enough lawyers and law firms now that you can actually get a lot of business off of social media. And again, I mean, I'm not an expert. We have people that do it, but I mean, you can take a Facebook post and spend $10 a day. It's 50, you run a 5-day campaign. It's $50 max, $10 a day. I mean, if you land one case, your case cost was $50.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that anywhere else.
Right. Right. It really levels. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It really levels the playing field, right? For those major, those advertisers with just massive budgets. Social media.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you certainly have the personality for social media, so I'm looking forward to following you in, this coming year to see what you put out. Can you give us any insight into kind of what your plans are for social, maybe platforms, Instagram, TikTok? What are you looking to do in the coming months?
Yeah. So again, we focus on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I know a lot of people do LinkedIn. Some people do Twitter. I don't like to write, and I want my stuff to be mine. I don't want to hire somebody to write a Twitter for me. So I believe this is just one person's opinion. I think TikTok is probably the most popular one for, like, the younger demographic now. And so I'm going to put a lot of time into that. Then there's the other argument that, again, so many people watch YouTube. I think people forget about YouTube. So we get, myself included. So, I've taken courses on this. Like, I pay attention to followers. If you talk to an Instagram marketer, they would tell you the amount of, you could have one follower and be getting way more cases on Instagram than someone that has 1 million followers. The followers don't necessarily mean anything. So we're gonna spend a lot of time on TikTok, but those are the 4 platforms that I do: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm a believer that, again, you got to hit them from every side. As far as what I'm gonna do, again, I've been spending a lot of time in this. So, like, my goal would be to be the most raw and real lawyer out there. I think there's a lot of pre-planned stuff. Hey, what to do if you're in a car accident. Step 1, step 2, step 3. That stuff's needed. I'm not saying it's not needed. But again, ultimately, I believe in attracting the case by forming a relationship with them. I've got to tell them a little bit of a story about who I am, right? They know what I do, right? I'm a car accident lawyer. I don't think that's that special. So I don't need to tell you. And again, I can tell you once you're on the phone how it works. So a lot of people, I think, go what I would call too generic. So I want to be real. I want to be raw. I want to be kind of cutting edge. I want to push the boundary. I want to be in a little bit of a gray area to say, and I want to be interesting, because I said earlier about the mentors and the social media. My goal for 2023 is to be the leader of the pack. Meaning, in 2024, this is what I told my social media people: is in 2024, I want a bunch of people calling different social media companies saying, I want to do what Larry Nussbaum's doing. So that's my goal. So it's going to be different, but it's really just going to be personal. And some people are going to love it, and Some people might not, but if more people do than don't, then that's my following, and people will start talking, and that's the way to generate the case. It's a personal relationship. You got to earn their trust and not just try to make a sale.
Yeah, you're distinguishing yourself, right? You're giving them a look at what it would be like working with you and working with the firm. And that's, nothing's more authentic and genuine than that. So I agree with that approach. You mentioned you were kind of forming a social media team. How many people are working on your social media now, and how are you kind of divvying up the work?
It's a shit show so far because we're just starting, but
Okay, yeah.
I probably got 7 or 8 people that are doing all different kind of thing. Videographers, editors, content creators, influencers. Again, I don't even know what an influencer was 2 weeks ago, but I'm told influencers are really big.
Yeah.
I had a team that was pitching me like, don't spend any money on social media, just give it all to influencers, and they'll blow you up. And
Yeah.
so I'm gonna involve some influencers, and
Yep.
I don't know. So that's a big one as well now, I'm told.
Yep.
So we got a lot of people involved. I like to say this. I'm just myself, and I take some direction, and I let them deal with everything else. But
Right. Yeah.
you gotta do it your way. You gotta be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else. And
Right.
so
Exactly. Yeah, we've had several guests on this show who have also, of course, they're generating leads on social, but also it has been kind of an invaluable networking tool, right? They're meeting referral sources. They're able to refer, out of state or out of, practice area cases out through social media. So, that is another, powerful way of using social too. Yeah.
correct. There's like this whole little group of I'm laughing because I know most of them. I'm not part of the group. I guess I could be if I wanted to be, but I'm okay. There's like they take their Instagram very seriously, and they've all become very close friends, and they send
Yeah.
cases back and forth.
Right, exactly. So Larry, just briefly, before we started, you were telling me about how, you have the cases are flowing in, lead volume is really solid, but now kind of the challenge is getting that foundation in place, handling intake, making sure that you're able to have the kind of infrastructure in place to grow in the way that you want. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So I grew very fast, which was a blessing and punishment at the same time, because most people struggle where I excelled, which was bringing in business. So you have the time to set up all the proper systems and protocols and foundation for your business. And if you do that right, and you're just getting some cases, and all of a sudden the cases start flowing in, you're well prepared. I did the exact opposite. I brought in so many cases, and I had no programs, no systems, no anything. And so I've had to work backwards, and I think it's probably easier to work forward than backwards. So it's been even harder, and it's hard anyways to have a great foundation. So it's a struggle every day. I believe we get better at it every day. We make a lot of changes, and we don't ignore things. And I believe in being a very present owner. Even when you grow large, like I'm here every day. I can't say I'm the first one anymore. I used to always be the first one, even though I was the owner. I'm a little bit older now, and I don't sleep well. But I love getting feedback from my employees. I don't run a hierarchy here. I involve people because I'm always trying to. My favorite thing to do is I get a complaint from a client, and I actually thank them for complaining. I'm like, listen, if you didn't tell me, I don't even know this is going on, and then it's not just about you; it's about getting better for everybody. So I thank people. I prefer them not to have to call and complain, but I appreciate those things. So I think bringing in cases is hard, and that's one aspect. But then it's like, what do you do with the cases once you get them, and making sure that when you're high volume like us, it's just nonstop from intake. And then let me tell you something. I pity my bookkeeping team. All the checks that come in, and money that moves in and out, and medical record costs. So you got to have systems in place. I fought that for a long time. I was just like, all right, we're making good money, and this is great. And you got to have some sort of systems in place.
Yep.
And so what I've learned is, you got to bring in people that know, a lot of lawyers. It's become more common now. A lot of lawyers. I'm a lawyer. I think I'm a pretty good businessman, but I'm a lawyer at heart, and I'm not an operator. I'm not an implementer. And so you have to hire the right people and put together the right team, and then put trust in them.
An attorney watching who may be looking to make one of their first hires, either a support, a paralegal, or, an intake specialist. Do you have any advice for that person that might be, a little scared, a little nervous to kind of take that plunge, but they're finding that they're actually the bottleneck, and to grow, they really do need to hire?
Yeah. So again, my real advice is, I don't know if I can tell you who your first hire should be. I know you interviewed Awad Ali. He would tell you your first hire should be a videographer, not a paralegal or another lawyer. I'm being dead serious.
Yeah, Ali for sure.
Right. So I'm just saying, but what I can tell you is that I was scared to spend money when I started my firm. So I was like a lot of people. I had another lawyer working for me, and I had a paralegal, and we had this just room full of files, and we weren't making as much money as I wanted. But I'm like, well, I'm not making enough money, so I can't keep hiring people. But in hindsight, and it took me a while to learn this, if I had hired 5 more lawyers and gave each one of them 100 files instead of me sitting on 500, we would have been turning money. But it's scared to commit to that money. So, the easiest way is, again, my math's horrible, so I don't know what's divisible by 12. But like, if somebody had a paralegal had a $48,000 salary, you don't have to pay them $48,000 at once, right? That sounds scary. Wait until you have to pay lawyers hundreds of thousands. But right, the 48 sounds scary when you've never hired anybody. But then it's like, well, you divide that by 12, that's 4. So you only owe them $4,000 every month. And look at your caseload. Can they, they should, every employee should in theory be paying for themselves, right? My revenue has to cover their salary, and it has to make me profit. So it was scary as hell, and I did it probably 2 years too late, and I regret it. But you got to hire some people, and and even when you think you can't afford them, because what you're not seeing is if you have enough cases, those cases will settle so much faster that you'll be bringing in this revenue, and you'll see more money than you've ever seen. So hire someone. That's my advice. I don't care who. Hire your mom for below minimum wage. It's okay.
No, that is really, really good advice. I think that's something that a lot of the attorneys watching need to hear. Okay, Larry, so before we wrap up, I always like to ask, if an attorney watching only has time to adopt 1, maybe 2 of the tips you shared today, what would you recommend?
Hard work would be number 1. Let me tell you something. If everybody did it, then it wouldn't work. But man, and I think Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, used to say something like this. I don't do it like I used to, but for the first 5-6 years I practiced, I was in my office by like 5 a.m. I was out of my office by like 7 p.m. I came in every single weekend, and I mean every single weekend, and I just grinded. But I loved what I do. It didn't feel bad. Like when I'm, honestly, and I try to make things fun. So like when I was in here on the weekends, I would have a beer. I would put on the football game. It's not like I'm sitting there like studiously studying for the bar exam, but I outworked everybody. And I still work hard. I work a lot smarter now. And again, like I said, I'm older. I just don't have that energy. But as a young starting lawyer, you can close the gap by outworking people, right? When older lawyers like myself, eventually, I don't care who they are, they get married, most likely, they have a family, they get older. You just can't do it. Those first few years out of law school, I'm not saying nobody's married or has kids at that time, but like you can really afford to put that extra hard work in, and I think that always pays off. So that would be my first piece of advice. The second piece of advice would be to, however many cases you filed in suit in 2022, times that by 10 this year.
I love it. I love it.
So if you're a really small guy and you're in a small firm and you try to settle most of these cases and you filed suit once last year, file suit 10 times. And for somebody that filed suit 10 times and they think that's good, it's not. File suit 100 times. It's the only way you're going to ever make any real money is going into litigation.
I love it. I love it, Larry. Outwork the competition, hard work, 10x in 2023. I love it. Loads of good stuff from Larry today. Here are the key takeaways that I see. 1, street marketing works. Like my past guests, Bob Simon, Mark Wasserman, even Alex Northover, Larry got started by bringing in cases from people he met in his daily life. With Bob and Mark, it was from time spent in bars. For Alex and Larry, it was Uber and cab drivers. For all of them, it came from letting people who could refer cases know that they were injury lawyers, right? Whether those people were doctors, bartenders, or drivers. Number 2, fake it till you make it. Larry acted like a financially successful lawyer long before he was one. Not everyone agrees with this approach, but Larry feels it accelerated his success. As with any marketing that works, investing everything you have or even more than you have, that's usually a winning strategy. Number 3, directly pursue catastrophic cases. At least a dozen of my past guests are successfully using this strategy by either restricting their intake to a specific injury category or sort of damage floor, or by increasing number of major matters in their case mix. Larry is taking the latter approach, right? The process starts by talking about your big cases, both their elements and their end result. Number 4, branding can be a worthwhile investment. If you have the money, spending a portion of it on getting better known will pay off over the long term. And that if is, of course, a big one, right? Of course, if, it's hard sort of to put those dollars into something that doesn't provide a direct attributable return, but big and savvy players, like Morgan & Morgan, spend heavily on branding when entering new markets. Larry also invests a portion of his marketing budget into soft client sources like radio, Uber Wraps. He's ramping up investments in organic social. I hope you can join me next Wednesday for my interview with Los Angeles injury attorney Greg Kirakosian on how he obtains high-value cases with newsjacking, niche SEO, and publicity. Keep marketing, everyone. Bye-bye. So thank you so much for sharing your experience. It was a real pleasure. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Larry. Everyone, be sure to join us for the next episode of the Grow with Kara show happening very soon. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.